if Nate Diaz is to return to MMA, who would you book him against? Now, hold on. We understand if he goes to the PFL, or we understand if he's going to fight Jake Paul. Like, it's the same thing. If you say Nate's going to the PFL, like, you can stop right there. I understand that he's going to fight Jake Paul. Or if you tell me he's going to do MMA with Jake Paul, you can stop right there. I understand that that's in the PFL. And that's on the table. No question. But Nate was very complimentary at press time last week of the UFC. He only mentioned them a couple of times, but it was very nice what he had to say. And last night was Dana White's turn. He got asked about it. And Dana commented on how great Nate looked. He talked about in the sport of boxing, Nate was 4 weight classes up. Fought a youthful guy and fought him hard and represented himself better than anybody. I mean, really nice things. Now, that isn't like foreshadowing because they're working together. It's not like that in the least. It would just be a matter of, we've heard from, and Dana said something else very beautiful about Nate. He said the UFC will always be Nate's house. If he ever wants to come home, he's got a place. So, I get before you, Jake Paul and the PFL, I get that, but let's just take the principles that would represent. That would be that Nate is going to fight somebody vastly younger than him. Nate is going to fight somebody moreover, okay, if we're doing this in the PFL, we're doing this Jake Paul, who's much younger. We're also understands that 185 pounds. Can we have that same and then bring it over to the UFC? I mean, just for fun and for conversation. If you're looking at matches for Nate, no longer on the table, right? A couple months ago, you go back and forth. Is he going to go 55 or is he going to go 70? You kind of play this game. We can now eliminate 55. But do we also have the ability to consider 85? I mean, that would be a whole new, from a parity standpoint, that would be a whole new conversation. And if you were to go and look at just what's in front of you, one of the pieces right now, and you were to look at some backstories or heat that's been developed by guys and Nate Diaz, you would not give any consideration to 185 pounds. You'd be looking at 170. I believe Poirier had made a comment as it pertains to Nate. And I have to say, I believe. I know the comment was made by Poirier, but he didn't say who he was speaking to. And Poirier said, "I'll move up." Meaning I'm willing to do it. I won't find any reason not to. But that would represent from 55 to 70 for Poirier, and I'm not sure that we're having that conversation for Nate. I'm not sure that we are. I'm not sure he's not now an 85-pounder. That's really interesting. Is Nate Diaz coming to the UFC? And if so, is he doing it at 185? And before you answer that and go, no, he'll do it at 170. Okay, fair enough. But do you just get my point, which is he might do it at 170. He might do it at 185. That changes everything. And I admit that you don't have it in front of you right now. I admit there's no middleweight with any backstory that we have ever been made aware of. I understand. But if I'm accurate, Nate just fought at 185. There's a strong rumor of him versus Paul. Without even negotiating, they would both understand and do currently understand if we were to do this match under MMA rules, it would be the unified rules, it will be the PML organization, and by the way, it'll be at 185 pounds. They haven't discussed any of these things. They don't need to. They both understand that. But if they understand it, I'm just asking that you guys also understand that Nate is making it very clear that he can go 185 pounds. What he hasn't made clear is, will he only go at 185 pounds? Like, is that just his new spot? And I always find that so interesting. Like, a guy's weight is really important detail to have. Where he's going to go, what category, what division, who he's coming after. Like, these things are really important. And not just to me, but to the entire division. When I tell you there's no middleweight with any backstory that we're aware of, as it pertains to Nate, well, could still exist. We just haven't been made aware of it. They could change. You could have a guy that's got a problem with Nate who's never even met him. But that's real in this industry. You see someone, you read something about it, go get that guy. It's one of those deals. So when you're considering who you want to see Nate fight next, you've got a few things that you got to decide right up front. And I'm just asking you, I want you to leave a comment. I did a poll yesterday where I just asked you guys, do you want to see Nate and Jake do it again, but do it in MMA? It's just a poll. But I was personally curious. Like when I make those polls, I'm personally curious. I try to have my thumb right on top of everything at all times. But every now and then there's something where I take a little people and then somebody else influences me in a different direction. You guys were quite overwhelming that the answer was yes. I'm going to call it 70% of you. I'm rounding a little bit. But yes, you do want to see them do it again. And specifically, you want to see them do it in MMA. So when I ask you, okay, I want you to have a little bit of groundwork for your comments here so we can get it back and forth. But we got to have a couple of rules for who you want to see Nate next. First thing you're going to have to decide is, are we talking boxing or are we talking MMA? That one, in my opinion, has been made clear. Nate's next event is going to go to MMA. That's in my opinion. You might have a different one. You might have different information. Then, moreover, what weight class? And it has always been assumed, just an assumption that's out there, all the way down to Dustin Poirier, who also made an assumption when he said, I'll move up. Well, it's up to 170, but Nate is now a 185 pounder. Nate is now a 185 pounder. That is what he weighed in last at. That is what he's prepared to fight for a number of months. Of all the things that are on the table, and the conversation as it involves Paul everything's at 185. He's now a 185 pounder. Is he going to change weights? Is he going to go back to 170? I'm wide open to it. But my main goal here is to make sure that you understand that when you're doing matches or hypotheticals, or you're looking for parity, you're trying to have some fun here, which is what this whole thing is about. You are no longer locked in to 155 and 170. As a matter of fact, you've got to eliminate 155. That is off the table. I'm just here to remind you that 185 is now on the table. So when I ask you, who would you like to see Nate fight next? I want your answer. But make sure you consider middleweight.